The following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Welcome to The People's View.
Hello, I'm Carl Seidel, host of The People's View. The show is sponsored by the Nashua City Republican Committee, and if you like to attend our meetings, they're the second Thursday of every month at 6:30 at the Crown Plaza. And if you want to find out more about our organization, you can go to nashuagop.org to see our website and learn about the events that we have. Hello, and help me welcome a candidate for mayor, Dan Moriarty. Dan, how are you doing in your campaign? It just started out, and you just finished up with the town's budget, and you were one of the people that didn't really approve of it as finalized.
Right, I voted no.
Okay, and what was the big thing that you didn't think that should be included?
It was a matter of how it's structured. A matter of how it was structured. Overall, I'm glad that we didn't have to override the spending cap like last year, which I voted against. But it has to do with the way the salary contracts that we keep passing. I told the audience, I told my colleagues that for the past couple years, I've voted no to layoffs because I recognize that the contracts were, the salary contracts exceeded the cost of living. And by exceeding the cost of living, the CPI index, the consumer price index, they exceeded what the spending cap would allow. And I knew in advance that the only way to take the salaries, which is 75% of the budget, if they're growing faster than the spending cap allows, that you're going to have to cut somewhere else or cut staff in order to make it fit. It's easy. It's just simple math. And as a result, that's what happened this year. So with the teacher's contract, the school department, I think they, forget exactly, but it was about 10 teachers that either were let go or moved to part-time, or for the most part, it was the paraprofessionals that took the brunt of it. And similarly with the police, they were able to fit it in by moving around overtime and things. But we can't continue to do that. We can't continue to pass the salary contracts that exceed cost of living, exceed what you and I and everybody in the city and in the country is getting, because it just doesn't fit.
Especially for the people who are retired. Exactly.
The cost of living adjustment for Social Security was 1.7% a couple years ago.
Yeah.
I also pointed out that last year's inflation rate was 0.8%. It was only 0.8%. So what we really need to do is look at salary growth that costs the city on the order of 0.8 to 1%. And instead, I pointed out to one of my colleagues after the meeting, since I've been on the board, certainly in the last 2 years, not one single salary contract that's come across my desk has cost less than inflation. Not one single one of them.
You can't just keep that up.
You can't keep that up. And so the salary difficulties are self-created. It's just a problem that doesn't have to exist.
Well, what are you going to do if you get elected as mayor to fix it, so that when you present the budget to the Board of Aldermen,
right.
What are you going to do? Where are you going to be?
You have to start early.
Yeah.
And it starts by explaining this at the negotiating table, way in advance. Like if you wait to the end and they ask, well, Alderman Moriarty or Mayor Moriarty, what are you going to cut out of the budget to make it fix? Well, that's the wrong question to ask.
Yeah.
Let's start at the beginning. What am I going to do in the beginning?
Right.
And you have to start out by saying, I'm willing to offer all employees a fair pay raise equal to what everybody else in the real world's getting, everybody else in the city and the country's getting, which is cost of living plus a promotion schedule. The individuals actually get more than inflation, but the cost to the taxpayers can be less than inflation. And the way that works out is people retire at high salaries and get hired in at low salaries, and so as long as that happens, it works out. So step one, just sort of sit down and talk to them and say, this is what is fair, and try and get them to go along with that.
You think that will be possible, or you think?
It's possible. Whether it's going to happen is a different matter. For instance, when I talk to the teachers going door to door, which I do quite a lot of, some of the best conversations I have are with teachers. And I've been invited into their living rooms, and they tell me things about working in Nashua and their life in the classroom, things that they wouldn't say in a public forum in many cases. But the discussion is always about life in the classroom. It's never about what some union boss's idea of an unaffordable salary contract that's going to get them laid off. It's never conversations about contracts. It's about life in the classroom. And so I need to get that message across and introduce myself to them as individuals like I do, because I went to grade 22. I mean, the most impactful people in my life were my fourth grade teacher, Joan Ruhlman, my high school calculus teacher, Rich Andra, and my doctoral advisor, Min Cheng Lee. I was a teacher's joy. I was a teacher's pet. So I totally recognize the value of education. Nobody recognizes the value of education as much as I do.
But what kind of influence do you have in the Board of Education's salary?
You don't have much, but there's a negotiating table. So the corporation council works on that side, and so the mayor is involved, sort of in the beginning from that standpoint.
You sort of help.
It's relationship building is what it comes down to. It's all relationship building. Work with Bob Sherman, work with the other union bosses, and work with the teachers and talk to them as individuals. That's what matters. Work with the individuals. I find you can accomplish a lot just by sitting down and talking to them, and then you realize that we're on the same team. So the conversation I have with everybody is how do we improve life in the classroom? I have not met a teacher yet who has said that they would leave Nashua, they would quit their job because they only got a 2.5% pay increase instead of a 3%. Nobody's told me that. But I have had people tell me that they are going to leave Nashua to take a pay cut to go to a private school because life in the classroom is better. So focus on what's important to the people that are in there every day dealing. And that has a lot to do with my whole platform as mayor.
So then this is something that really bothers quite a few people, the life in the classroom.
It is. It's a concern. And so so many of the teachers get frustrated that, if only you spent a day in the classroom to see what I go through. Believe me, I know exactly what you're going through. I don't know if it bothers them is really the right way to describe it, but it's definitely a challenge. It's a resource drain. We have kids that show up. Half the students in our public school system come from families that qualify for free or reduced. A lot of people on welfare in Nashua, increasingly urban population. Half the students. And I hear stories, countless stories about kids that show up that their clothes haven't been washed, they haven't eaten breakfast, they eat all their meals at school, and parents that aren't engaged in the education process. So the teacher's not able to teach. And you have a paraprofessional there to work with them, and they can't teach. And so they become babysitters. So what we need to do is look outside the classroom into the community, and what can we do to improve the community as a whole to inspire them to want to see that education is the path out of poverty. That's number one.
And have you dealt with any of the administrators who I would think should have some ideas on how to better the environment? Yes.
Specifically, I believe Superintendent Conrad is very amenable to educational reform of the type that I'm talking about. July 7th, specifically July 7th, the committee that I chair, Planning and Economic Development Committee, we're going to talk about mid-skilled advanced manufacturing jobs that rely on the trades. And we have a program at Nashua High School called CTE. It's Career and Technical Education. The directors of that, one of them was going to join me, but turns out she's on vacation, so I'll get the other director. But they are definitely amenable to the idea of elevating the value, elevating the status of trades, get rid of the stigma of VOTEC, get rid of that, and use that as a basis for teaching skills to the students, the next generation to come through so that they're ready to go directly to the workforce.
Are you working with the community colleges who have the programs to follow through on that?
Lucille Jordan, the president of Nashua Community College, was a guest on my committee last year, and she made the statement, every single one of her students that has signed up for the advanced manufacturing class has a job lined up before they graduate. Every one of them. So that's an indication that
And it's a good paying job.
it's a good paying job. It is. It used the world of just assembly line touched labor is gone. It's never coming back. But highly automated, computer automated, mechanized assembly is thriving in the U.S. It's thriving in New England. It's just not thriving in Greater Nashua. In Hudson, they have a few, and they're beating us from that standpoint. But by tying in the skills that they can teach at the community college with the skills we can teach in the high school, and inspiring the parents of the that are on welfare, the parents of and the kids to go through that path, then we can have one or two people in the community follow that path and get a job and be leaders or be role models in their community, role models of success.
So just to get them to want to go to school, want to learn, want to accomplish something in school.
Exactly.
It really changes the attitude.
It helps. And another aspect is we have the industry, we have the community college, the high school, and then the people and the communities themselves. There's a committee called the Ethnic Awareness Committee that's now called the Cultural Connections Committee. I've gone out of my way to join them at their committee a few times and introduce myself. And I had their chairman, Tom Lopez, on my committee also to talk about how we can get involved with the community to find out, is there a difficulty in the community, the people that live there, what are the challenges, how can we remove those challenges to offer opportunities? And he made the statement, this is him, not me, he made the statement that on their committee, the Cultural Connections Committee, they have a Hispanic policeman. The main reason they have a Hispanic policeman there is so he can go into the Hispanic community and be the role model of, if you work hard and study, you can get a job. And so then you can have the communities that are at risk highest can see someone that they can identify with. Those are the type of things that can that can inspire success.
Good. You were talking about going beyond that, getting companies in economic development to come to as mayor, what would you be doing to encourage that?
So on my palm card that I give everybody, number one, jobs. So I want to bring jobs to Nashua. How am I going to bring jobs to Nashua? The answer lies in connecting. It's cooperative education is sort of the word. By relationship building with general managers or future general managers of these types of companies, I would ask them simply, what skill do you need? What skill are you having a hard time finding in the workforce? And on July 7th, I'll have 3 general managers of local companies come and tell us that. One of them, Dave Patterson, the Chief Operating Officer of Sertronics in Milford, his answer is, I need people who can do circuit board assembly, and I need people who are buyers and other things. So if he says we need people that need these skills, then I can go to the CTE directors and say, we need you to teach these skills. And then the company knows when they come to Nashua, the people will be ready to be hired. And so Nashua is going to become the place to come to because they'll have the workforce ready to go. They won't have to train them. They won't have to bring them from Massachusetts. They'll be here.
Well, is there anything that you would propose to do with statewide? I mean, not you personally, but tying in with what's happening statewide.
Yes, I read one newspaper in the morning, the other newspaper at lunch, and I've been following this for a year and a half. This idea of mine is not my idea. I just read a lot and sort of take other people's ideas and connect them together and find the missing link and draw associations and do relationship building. There is a New Hampshire High-Tech Council.
Yes.
That one of the directors of it works for Dine Corporation. Paul Mailhot, I believe is his name. And I invited him to be a guest, but he wasn't able to attend. Instead, the next person in line, former Manchester Mayor Bob Baines, who works for Dine specifically for this whole topic. That's why he was hired in, was to help solve Dine Corporation's problem of not being able to find people. So this New Hampshire High-Tech Council exists statewide. There's some funding, not a lot. It doesn't, all these things that I talk about, none of these things that I talk about cost you anything as far as tax dollars. It's all shoe leather time relationship building. And that's the New Hampshire High-Tech Council is trying to study the system of bringing jobs to New Hampshire.
And they really encourage a lot of new companies to develop, too. I've been
Yes.
at some of their meetings. It's a very good
Yes.
place to make connections.
Yep, and as far as bringing them here is only half of it. I talked to, there's Don Zizzi, who's a professor at Harvard, I believe, that teaches urban development. And he and I are exchanging some information. He's tutoring me about something he's calling a grow your own business community in downtown. So not just try to attract them to come in, but set up the conditions in the city that make it a perfect opportunity for a company to start. And that's the other half of this.
Well, there are a lot of areas. There was a bus tour that took people around to look for development areas.
Right.
And they're looking at the new Broad Street extension and the other areas on Spitbrook that as major areas. And I guess
Right.
there's a couple other areas, too, to develop. Yeah. Is there anything in your plan that would help that along?
The Flatley development down in Exit 1, they're doing a great job of setting up a small city that is developed. All the buildings and the businesses within the buildings and the people and the apartments and the size of the apartments, are they 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, is all designed to optimize the interaction between more of the higher end of salary range, the above mid-skilled. They're doing a great job. And I would I'm going to stay out of their way and let them do that. If they want help, I'll be happy to help all I can. Developing downtown in the area between Main Street and Ledge Street and Pine Street, what some people might call the High Rock area. That's before my time. With the coming of the Broad Street Parkway, there will be greater access, and hopefully we can develop that. Now, I don't care where the factory is. Exit 5A, you'll notice there's a few companies there that are perfect. That they're large warehouse-looking buildings. Those are the type of space you need. In fact, one of them, I think it's called Highland Tool, was founded by a man who, again, gave me this idea 2 years ago. I was telling him, here's what I've learned about Nashua. I've gone door to door, and I was down in Ward 6 and 7 and 4, and I'm learning more about our school system and the challenges that are before it, and I need to somehow bring in these jobs. And he said, here's the solution. Highly mechanized, computer automated assembly so that you can make a product that's competitive.
So that's something that you do as mayor. What
Absolutely.
other things do you have in mind as prime things that would, develop the city more?
Well, so far we've been focused on bringing up the bottom end, the increasingly urban population there's a disproportionately high number of people on welfare because Nashua is an urban city. You go out in the surrounding communities, it's not as bad. But we also we want Nashua to have an identity, vibrancy, an identity of arts and culture and community, so that what that does, that inspires youth and entrepreneurs to come here and stay here. So I want my kids to look forward to living and working in Nashua. Again, I keep talking about the Planning and Economic Development Committee because that's the committee I chair, and we've been talking about all these aspects. One of the first guests we had gave a presentation that made the statement: people who start companies, entrepreneurs who start companies, know where they're going to start the company before they even know that they're going to start a company. They think, I want to live in Austin, Texas, so they move there. Or I want to live in San Francisco. Or, I want people to, instead of thinking, Hampshire, why do I want to go there? I want them to think, I want to move to Nashua. Now, not everybody is going to compare Nashua to Boston or Austin, but all we need are enough of them to think, wow, I was in Nashua, and I had a great time. And they have a great art community, and there's music all the time, and they have these community events downtown, and you go down there on a weekday and a weekend, there's always something happening. That's what we want. It creates an energy and a buzz. And so then you get youth and energetic people that are type A motivators that start companies. So you end up with a lot of higher paying jobs.
What do you think about the person who bought that courthouse over there off the Broad Street?
I know very little about that exchange, but it's nice that it was purchased.
Well, that is, I was just wondering if that would be a place where some of these activity would be, because it's sort of, inviting at the end of that Broadway extension,
Sure.
Broad Street extension.
I imagine it's very schoolroom-like, it's very courtroom-like, lots of big rooms. I don't know what type of company would thrive in that, but labs, you could turn it into lab space. They got parking right there and parking around it. I hope that the guy who bought that can turn it and make great things out of it. Absolutely.
Well, how is your campaign going so far? I mean, you have 6 people, I guess, running for this position.
Yes, we do.
And one of them's already announced he has over $100,000 in donations. That's quite a big mountain to climb.
Yep. For him, he has a lot of ground to make up. Absolutely. And it's going to cost. He's going to have to spend every penny to make up. I go out door to door, and we're campaigning. I love meeting people. I make house calls. I will probably end up meeting every person in the city that is likely to vote by the primary. And what's nice is I'm in the neighborhoods, and I come up and ring somebody's doorbell, and they come up and they say, "Oh, hi, I remember you from when you stopped by last time."
Oh.
Whether it was 6 months ago or 2 years ago or when I was out campaigning for some other candidate. And they respect that. They like the idea that I'm taking the time to walk down this long street, this busy traffic, and knock on their door and just stand there and ask them what they think. That goes a long way.
So face-to-face is what you're going to do.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody.
If you want 7,000 people to vote for you, you have to walk up and ask 7,000 people to vote for you.
Do you have the need for help, some help, with signs and stuff like that?
We have the...
who should they contact? How do they contact you? There's
no secret that that I have that the 2Ds of Nashua ground game is second to none in New Hampshire, to the point where presidential candidates and their campaigns would love to have us help them out. And we've done that in even-numbered years and off years. I'd be happy to help other people. I love helping other people and make friends. I'm honored to have the volunteers that I have to do. One of my volunteers is doing more work than any of the other 5 candidates, and I have several volunteers like that plus myself. I love it. It's a high-energy campaign, absolutely, and it's grassroots, textbook grassroots.
We put your website on the screen so that people can contact you that way.
Yep, www.moriartyformayor.com. It's all on my yard signs. One thing that you might notice, let's as an example of sort of our style or our purpose in campaigning and the way we go out and meet people. If you drive down Concord Street, it's just noise and signs. I have 4 signs. 4 of the other candidates, all 4 signs. It's just a mess. But if you drive around the neighborhoods, those people aren't there. You go any neighborhood in Nashua, and there's a sign that says Dan Moriarty for mayor. Mm-hmm. Every single one of those signs was there because either I or a volunteer walked down that street, found someone, knocked on all the doors, and found someone to talk to them, had made a connection, and asked to put it there. When you see a sign in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of a neighborhood, in Ward 5 or Ward 1, the furthest reaches, and you see a sign, that's an indication that I was there. And I spoke to that person, and it's an endorsement. That's what that is.
I guess
that's what I want to get the message, and it's a way of getting the message out, one at a time. Because it's expensive to mailers.
Oh, yeah.
But you write something down and they read it and everybody has a question. If I'm standing there, I can tell them, I'm running for mayor to bring in jobs, limit tax growth, pave your roads.
Okay.
And then they ask, like we're having now, we'll have a 20-minute conversation. It's the best.
Okay, very good. And we've run past the 20 minutes.
Already. Going door to door, I tell everybody this, going door to door is like going to a library and randomly pulling books off the shelf to see what's inside.
Okay.
You never know what you're going to get, and it's always exciting.
Okay, well, good luck on your campaign. And the rest of you, please come to the Nashua Republican City Committee's big fundraiser in August 29th at the Crown Plaza. We'll have a number of the presidential candidates there, and I'm sure that some of the candidates for mayor will be there too. Thank you very much for listening in.
preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.